Right, good evening. If you'd like to take a seat quickly, we promise we'll start promptly at 6:30. And just like we're going to stick to time, like this project is kept to time. Right, fine. Well, many thanks for turning up. This is the first of the local liaison forum meetings related to the Chisholm Trail and the Abbey Chesterton Bridge. And first thing I'd just like to mention, I've just noticed we've got someone here with a camera, and you need to be made aware that if you don't want to be filmed, you have every right to say so. So you don't want
May I introduce Mr. Richard Taylor, photographer of this parish? No, thank you, Richard. Not for me.
Right, so there's one man who doesn't want to be photographed.
Can I say that these are public civic decisions? This is millions of pounds worth of public money. Mr. Bond represents many people in this area. He is a representative of a residents' association. He is often given, therefore, special access, and I intend to film Mr. Bond and anyone else who is participating in this meeting.
I don't know the law about that, but you have a right to film, have you? Right.
The law actually is quite strong about publishing images of people without their consent.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could find out behind.
I would think Mr. Taylor would respect that. I hope. Yeah, I hope you would respect
I'm not, no, because there are many people who are interested in what goes on at this meeting, and my filming it will enable people such as members of the Cycling Campaign. Many people are not here. If you look at the number of people here today, there are, what have we got, 10 or 15 people? There are thousands of people who live in the north and east of Cambridge. So I would like you to reverse your decision, Mr. Chairman.
my decision was, I just happened to mention that people have a right to state that they don't want to be filmed. I think I have seen you at area committees and so on, but the same statement is actually made.
That's false. That is completely wrong. There is now a right to film local council meetings in law.
Anyway, folks, thanks a lot for coming.
At the previous meeting of the forum, members of the forum had decided that the rules on filming would be the same as area committee meetings. There is a right to film area committee meetings, which was introduced by the Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulations 2014, which amended the Local Government Act 1972, which includes provisions which ensure open access to all local council meetings.
It's a shame that the tone of the evening has been set by one person, but we'll change all that. Now, apologies.
Not a bit of riff-raff here.
Can I suggest that, despite what's been said, that really Mr. Taylor should respect the wishes of the members of the public who don't want to be filmed?
Yeah, well, I just...
They're not going to, but I think that point should be made.
Is there anyone, quite on a serious note, is there anyone who actually explicitly doesn't want to be filmed? Because if there is, I will go and stand in front of that camera. It's a simple solution. I think it's fine. No one does feel.
Right. Let's restart. Apologies. Patrick, is anyone said?
I've got a few apologies from people. Helen Valentine, who's I think ARU representative, says she's at other city deal meetings this evening. And Councillor Bajan is he's got a personal appointment, so he's not really.
Fine. Anyway. Right, I'll start by introducing myself. I'm County Councillor Noel Kavanagh. I'm going to be chairing this forum. Just out of interest, I also have a role as cycle champion for Cambridgeshire. And I'll just go along with everyone along here. Could you introduce yourself and tell us what your role is?
Yes, certainly. I'm Councillor Hazel Smith, District Councillor for Milton.
I'm Mark England. I'm a representative of Milton Parish Council.
I'm Councillor Anna Smith. I'm City Councillor for Romsey, and I'm also lead councillor for cycling on the City Council.
Ian Manning, I'm County Councillor for East Chesterton and Vice Chair of this liaison.
Ed Kearns, I'm County Councillor for Market Ward, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Economy and Environment Committee that relates to this forum.
Vince Sparrow, I'm the Chairman of Bendon Parish Council. I'm Jim Chisholm and I'm representing County Cycling Campaign.
Fine. Okay, then what else?
I didn't hear the apologies.
Sorry, it's become, so Councillor Bajan has a personal engagement, he can't be here, and Helen Valentine has sent her apologies, who is a representative from ARU and is at another City Deal meeting this evening.
Fine, okay. So we've got a presentation now, and actually I've just been reminded by the Vice Chair. Some of you may not be familiar with the Liaison Forum and what the purpose is. It's not a decision-making body. It's been put in place so that it'll be a kind of conduit, through which local issues, opportunities and concerns relevant to this project can be taken into account during the development and the delivery of the project. So, as I say, it's not a decision-making forum, and we have an opportunity in the meeting to discuss resolutions which can be put forward by members of the panel here or by yourselves. So hopefully you would like to get involved by coming forward with suggestions. Then what happens is if you make a suggestion from the floor here, or just one made by a member, we'll discuss this suggestion and go to a vote on that suggestion. And if the vote is in favour of going ahead, the resolution as it then will go forward for discussion by the project team. Any questions on that?
Yes. When was this committee forum constituted? Because the information available prior to this meeting is an agenda which didn't give the starting time, and nothing else. So it's a bit puzzling. The terms of reference are available, but beyond that, no indication of what the constitution is, how people got onto it, or whatever. The only indication was they were councillors, and I'm not aware that Mr. Chisholm was a councillor, but perhaps he is.
Yeah. So the liaison forums were all set up by the executive board. That's what the terms of reference were created, and that's where the initial membership comes from. So Jim Chisholm is here as representative of the cycling, not as Jim Chisholm, if you like. And in the executive board of the City Deal, which is the decision-making body of the City Deal, for those not aware, that is what's set in terms of reference for this meeting. So it was a pre-meeting for councillors on the committee, which simply mainly to get us together to just work out when the first meeting was going to be, and this is the first public meeting.
But my puzzlement stems from the fact that last Tuesday I attended a meeting which was ostensibly for the Histon Road and the Milton Road local liaison forums, at which there was to be a picking up sides and appointment of chairman and vice chairman elected at the meetings. So I'm finding that there was already a chairman.
Yeah, there are. I think it's fair to say.
I wonder whether it's because you're actually stemming from the county council because it's their project rather than the City Deal.
There are, and it's fair to say that there are slight differences in the way some of the OLFs were, in practice, happened. But I suppose the question is there an issue you have with that, or is it more just a general concern around?
It helps if you actually have consistent procedures across the board,
Yeah, I
rather
completely
than
agree.
things which seem to change every time someone changes their socks.
Completely agree.
Yes.
Sorry, does that mean?
Yeah, when?
Yes, because I've noticed that with the other local, with, for example, the briefings on some of the other schemes coming through, which may have similar implications in terms of who's on, local liaison forum and things. For example, are there many residents here tonight?
So everyone here, with the exception of Jim is an elected councillor of
Yes,
South
but I'm just thinking about public meeting, I'm just thinking the points that Michael's made.
Wait,
I'm
you
just
mean-
thinking, like, I'm just wondering why we haven't got any, I mean, not necessarily residents associations, but community associations, you know, why?
Well, it's
Okay, so.
No, it's a public meeting, so
Yes.
anyone can attend.
But the invitations went out to
Councils, I believe, which is,
But
you know,
anybody else?
and residents, and I believe residents.
Well,
associations
I mean, there
agreed.
was a whole list of organisations that we recommended were sent, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming,
As far as I know.
Patrick,
I just
they,
want to know how, you know, how did you find out? You're the mailing list.
I mean, yeah,
Just, I'm just, you know, just trying,
Yeah.
because it affects other schemes too, so I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about, you know, like, you know, was it advertised, you know, like, because.
it was on the
I know
City
there
Deal
have been
website,
concerns,
but it wasn't very well advertised.
So we're all just trying to get a feel
Yeah.
for, you know, how these things work and what's the best way.
I
and,
think
you know, process.
the honest answer is probably to say that actually so are we.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
You know, so, you know, just trying to get the
Okay.
process.
Lady there.
Can you just recap briefly where we are in the planning process with both elements of this and
That's
how
all.
this feeds
Yeah,
in?
that's what President can do.
And how this will feed into that? Is it an actual formal part of the planning process?
So, I mean, what, no,
You didn't answer the time, but I want that's much.
no, it's a liaison forum. I mean, it'll be discussing the concepts and the proposals, but there's a planning process, and this is not part of the planning process.
Some way, or bring these things to officers, or how does
It may raise issues potentially, but it's not. There is a specific process for planning, and this is not part of that. But this is about the delivery of the project, and the planning process is about seeking planning permission for a project.
So, I mean, are we at this point allowed to make significant contributions, or are we just tweaking around the edges? I mean, if we have big ideas for it, is it still a place where you talk about?
well, it's a bit how it's a piece of string. I mean, I think when we get into the actual kind of meat of it, you'll probably get that question will probably be answered. But until we actually start discussing some of the details, it can be very hard to say, yes, there's this thing of this size we'll be able to change. But the fundamental is that the decision to go ahead on those projects has been made. And that this meeting is not going to discuss whether we go ahead or not, it's just going to discuss how we go ahead. And it should have a very strong influence on the project team. If there was something we were all incredibly concerned about, and we all voted for a resolution to say, don't do X, then I would have the project team would take that strongly into account.
It's there for guidance, but the planning process is a separate thing, and the planning application will go through and is being drawn up, and you're going to hear about that. But so we are there as guidance, and I suppose to extend the risk management of the project, and to ensure that stakeholders have an opportunity to engage with the delivery and how that might happen, and certainly, but the planning process is a very discrete thing, and actually we can't influence it in that way because it's a planning process, and that is already happening.
Yeah. Now, is everyone clear on
But
that?
I think
Yes, thanks for explaining that. I don't have to spend too much time on this. I'll just take one more comment. But I did mention earlier on, we're going to have this section called resolutions. So if people do have an element they want to bring forward for us to discuss and then maybe take on to the project team, we will address that in the next item. But as we're saying, we're not a decision-making body. It really is a conduit for ideas, suggestions, for improving the project. And gentleman there.
I'm going to comprise two questions. Can I just check, was a representative from the Travellers invited to the meeting? Or
Sorry,
someone from the Travellers been invited to the meeting?
Excuse me, sorry, there's an extensive list that goes out with 50 different agencies, and they're all invited along to it, so they'll write themselves, so they are on that.
So the second query is, just as it's formal voting at this meeting, could I just ask about conflicts or registered interests for members, whether members are, say, members of the Safe Cambridge Cycling Campaign? Can you just have that clear?
So for all of those who
as we went through the introductions, I think we all mentioned who we represented and so on. And the cycling campaign, Jim Chisholm is here to represent them tonight.
Is the chair a member of the Cambridge Cycling Campaign?
An actual member? Yeah, I'm a member of the
Is there any other
cycling
members
campaign.
that
Yeah.
So it's probably just also, what I was also going to say is that for all of the elected, I'm assuming this applies to our district colleagues as well, but for all the elected councillors here, we have a register of members' interests, which is on the relevant council website, where we have to declare everything we're a member of.
It's a separate declaration for City Deal.
Well, it would be the same, is what I'm saying.
So no, you have to accept declarations.
It's not what we are members of City Deal.
This is a City Deal body, this is separate.
Which isn't just,
We're here as individual councillors.
yes, we're not here as part of City Deal.
I'm here as a county councillor.
Okay.
So I'm
I mean-
resident.
So is it just confirmed who's a member of the Cambridge Cycling Campaign?
Yeah, I'm a member of the Cambridge Cycling Campaign as well. I'm also a member of other things, but
Who's not? Yeah, you are, right? So
I think we should be told who's a member of the WI. They're trying to organise crime.
Yes. Okay, well, thanks very much. On that note, I think we'll go to the next...
So it's all members of panel members of the Cambridge Cycling Campaign?
No, I said I'm not.
You're not? Sorry, I apologise.
No, I'm not.
I feel there's a conflict of interest given the fact that my ward's the centre of Cambridge and I have to balance the needs of all.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I would just merely say that being a member of the Cambridge Cycling Campaign does not mean I always agree with them.
Well, I'll just add that even though I'm a member of the cycling campaign and I do use a bicycle, I also drive a car and get on buses and other things as well.
I wasn't going to go, just for transparency.
I'm just saying, as a county councillor, I not only represent my own ward, I actually represent the whole county in my daily business. So, should we now go on to the presentation then? Yes, let's do that.
Chairman, can I just make a comment? Much as I'd like to see Ian Manning's head, I wonder if for the presentation we could just move away.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Patrick Joyce. I am the project manager for both the Chisholm Trail and the Chesterton Bridge. I'm one half of the project team. We've got another half of the team over there that is wearing. I am a resident of Romsey. I'm an engineer, and I am not a member of the Cambridge Cycling Campaign. I've been asked to come along and present to you where we are today with proposed schemes, and what I want to do really is concentrate on the two elements which are in for planning or about to be in for planning very shortly, which are the Chesterton Bridge and the Chisholm Trail as far as Coldham's Lane. So that's our sort of phase one, if you like. This map shows you the whole of the Chisholm Trail, sort of the missing link bit of the Chisholm Trail, if you like, within Cambridge. Clearly we've got stuff further south, we've got the busway and Brooks Hospital down to Trumpington, and stuff further north where the busway extends further out. And essentially we have a route which goes from Trumpington to St Ives. So we're sort of ignoring a large section of what you might think of the Chisholm Trail to talk about the piece in the middle, which is what a lot of people will use, which is this kind of north-south axis alongside the railway here. This map just shows you, is to give you an idea of what elements of where. The PEC line shows you where we're building which will be a 3.5 metre wide path through the middle here. The rest of it here is either on highway or will be sort of up to 5 metre wide path. Just to give you an idea of sort of an overview of what's going on here. So the north here, you have the new station area at Chesterton. To the south, obviously you have Advocate Hospital. There's a whole lot of stuff going on at the station we all know about. And with Ridge and development sort of in the middle as well, which is a kind of key element to what we're doing. Yeah, so essentially what it will do is link north and south along a sort of almost traffic-free alignment. It will also offer a link from green spaces here to green spaces to the south. So essentially as a pedestrian, you'll be able to walk traffic-free from from the river, from Bates Bike Lock, if you like, at the top, all the way through to Barnwell Road and Sainsbury's. So they're great amenity attractions for leisure use for people. So that gives you the sort of an overview of the whole thing. Just some pictures there that show you various elements of the path. It shows, the middle one shows you the path going across Dick Meadows, and some of the users are there. It shows actually quite how narrow the existing path is. Yeah. Programme, this is indicative, this was the programme that we sort of thought of to start with. We are somewhere around about 4, insofar as we've put in an application for the Chisholm Bridge. We're about to put in an application for phase 1 of the Chisholm Trail, and that we hope will be perhaps the end of this week. That's the plan. And so those documents will be up on the planning portal before very long. I'd say we're probably at about number 4 here, so we're slightly ahead of the game, really, from where we thought we'd be at this time early on. We've done a lot of consultation, as many folk will be aware. We've spoken to a lot of landowners already, and we're in the process of looking at getting a contractor on board to tell us how they might build some of the various elements. So everything's on track at the moment. Just to remind ourselves of the consultations that have gone on for both these two elements, and they are quite extensive. I think anyone would say that there's a lot of consultation that has gone on in the past over the Chisholm Bridge and also the Chisholm Trail. And I think we're now moving into the stage where we're going into planning, which is the gold standard of consultation. And so there's still a lot more consultation yet to be done and plenty of opportunities to input. Since all that, I've listed the things that we've been up to, the things we've been looking at. Clearly, we're working in the floodplain. A lot of it's in flood zones 2 and 3. I don't know whether people know quite what that means, but it means that we really have to think about flooding issues and the flow of water and how our scheme might affect that. We've been looking at ecology, we've had reports done, we've looked at the impact of what we're planning to do. There's a full heritage assessment being done, particularly in the area of the Leper Chapel, where we're dealing with a great historic building and its environs, and we have to think very hard about what we're doing there and how our project might affect it. We've done some modelling of traffic, we've looked at usage predictions. We've touched on contamination because we're dealing with former railway land, and so we have to be aware of certain issues that might arise around contaminated land. Archaeology we've looked at, and we'll have a slide about that a little later on, because the Leper Chapel area is an area where there may be burials, for example, or buried historical stuff. Clearly, we're working in the highway, and we've got a long path we've got to construct, so we're dealing with the statutory undertakers, water, telecoms, all these things which introduce delay and expense and make our lives very difficult. We've done ground-penetrating radar, for example, in Newmarket Road, to see what's underneath there, because sometimes the plans you get are not entirely accurate. When you hit a high-pressure gas main, you need to know it's there before you start digging a hole. There's a landscape assessment which feeds into the planning process. Have a tree survey of everything to identify what trees there are, what the existing tree stock is, what the condition of it is. And we've also done geophysics I say, in the Left Chapel area, which is a sort of time team type thing. We're crossing the river with a new bridge, so we have issues around navigation, so we're talking as conservative as we can. There are 27 landowners, depending how you crunch the numbers, involved in this, and we're kind of discussing with each and every one of those to try and get the land we need to build this scheme. Like I say, there's a planning application that's been put together. There's a compulsory purchase order as well for one element near the new Cambridge North station, which we're going through at the moment. And then there's also an issue of commons consent, because Coldham's Common is a common, and we need planning inspector, Secretary of State approval to do what we plan to do. Just to show you, that is phase 1 then. So we've got Chester Station up the north, Chester Bridge here, our path which runs alongside the railway line, tight up against the railway embankment. This here is the former Milton Hall railway line, which we are going to use for the scheme here. There's a bridge across Coldham's Brook at that point. Then we cross the railway line into Chapel Meadows, which belong to Cambridge past, present and future, which are in the vicinity of the Leper Chapel here, where there's some archaeological interest. Beneath Newmarket Road in a new underpass here. Skirt the Barnwell Lake, cross Coldham's Brook here, at that point, into Coldham's Common, where we follow the existing alignment of the path that is in existence across Coldham's Common, and we widen it to make it more suitable for pedestrian and cycle use. Beneath the Ipswich railway line here at that point, and finally terminating at Coldham's Lane at this point for the first stage. Just to deal with the various elements, to take you through it, this is obviously an artist's impression of an architect's rendering of what the bridge will look like. It doesn't actually show the full detail of what is proposed. If I start on this side, this is actually not quite correct. This has been revised to push users into full view of any cyclists going down the Hailing Way. This area is being widened more than is shown on this photograph here to use the fullest extent possible, with the exception of a grass strip at this point of the towpath to accommodate the extra use. Here that's the site of the existing jetty that goes underneath the railway bridge. That's been not widened, but we're going to use all the space available to improve the jetty, and we're going to improve the sight lines. Because we can't narrow the navigation at all at that point, we're going to improve the visibility that you have when you enter that narrow section so you can avoid interacting in a bad way with somebody coming the other way.
Can we just confirm that's still substandard?
Sorry?
That'll still be substandard, will be 2 metres wide.
It will be 2 metres wide, yes, which is as wide as we can go.
That's the main connection to town, so
Sorry, we're going to take questions at the end, Chairman.
Sorry?
I think we better. We wait till the end. You should get an answer to that.
Okay, so here we have again the architect's view of what it will look like. The scheme incorporates seating, which, when in the consultation process, we were told was important to people. It also is segregated on the bridge itself, and that's mindful of the fact that people are probably going to sort of congregate here a bit at certain times to look over what's going on in the river, and that's the way they're going to be looking. It also gives users of the bridge a nice view, which they currently don't have, down towards Benditton and Meadows. Okay, another view of the same, showing you much the same sort of thing. Jetty entrance is there. At night, we've had to think hard about the effect of the bridge on wildlife, particularly, I think that's a bit of an issue here. So the lighting is subtle. It should be contained pretty much within the structure, and it'd be sort of subtle down lighting in the handrail is the way we're looking, which gives a sort of deck wash, but also, we're told, allows some light spill onto the face of somebody who's coming away, so you can see who's coming. There's another view of the same sort of thing. Some statistics of the bridge for interest. It's actually 44 metres in span to give us the maximum available space on the towing path and at the jetty. It's made of steel. Cambridge blue is the suggested colour by the architect, and that's been trialled on site. We looked at a panel sprayed up to see whether that's an appropriate colour, and we feel that it is. The parapet height is 1.4 or better, which is the standard for cycling bridges. It's quite a thing, and it weighs 85 tonnes, which has had implications for the way that things are going to be constructed. We're looking, we think, at launching the bridge rather than a crane, so it won't be a big crane with a big crane pad sitting on Ditton Meadows. It will actually be launched from the little triangle piece of land on the other side. So you push it across with a counterweight and a nose on the front end. That means you don't have to close the river for a significant period of time, and it means you don't have a big crane as a crane pad to build. And the gradients are 1 in 20 or better. There's a sort of plan view showing the sort of red line area for planning for the bridge. I'll sort of take you through that. I don't know how familiar folk are. That's that triangular piece of land we were talking about here. We're going to construct the bridge there, launch it that way across the river, we think. This is the towing path here, and our exit onto Fen Road here, and entrance to the station at this point. On the south side here, our bridge ramp is there. So we ramp down, and I'll show you some sections of that in a minute. Here's the path that actually links to the existing path across Ditton Meadows here at that point. Coldham's Brook here, which we actually have to move at that point, relocate it. We pass very close, right up against the Network Rail embankment, so we don't take any more of the meadows than we have to along this point, till we join the Mildenhall railway line here. This area here we need, because we're in flood zone 3 and flood zone 2 there, and we're going to use that to provide flood compensation for our ramps, which are here. So we're actually going to win locally some of the material with which we build the ramps at this point. So this level of ground will actually be reduced to provide some flood compensation, and that will provide the material for the ramps. That's the thinking. So here is the Mildenhall railway line. We're going to also make some new floodplain here as well, as part of flood compensation work. So we're actually, what you need is a high spot that you remove to make it a low spot to create floodplain. Sorry?
It's a railway embankment.
It is a railway embankment. This area here is owned by the County Council, and that's going to be our site works, compound site. It was I think it was something to do with education or health or some such, and ultimately may be redeveloped. But at the moment it's vacant and it's raised to the ground, and it's a great hard standing to have a compound that doesn't interfere with
That's the old tractograph building.
Sorry?
It's the site of the old tractograph building, isn't it?
You know something like that. Okay. This is coming across Ditton Meadows from the bridge heading south, so this is the most northerly section. Here's the railway embankment here, there's a railway fence. Here's Coldham's Brook, which is, again, we relocate a little bit further down, and our path here, fencing to stop people straying onto the meadow at that point, or cattle getting in. The railway embankment here is a 2-to-1 slope, and it's all at 4.6, which is the same height as the hailing way. So if the hailing way were to flood, that is the point at which this would flood. So if essentially this path will be open if the tow path is open. So they're all the same height. Further south here, again, what we end up doing is we relocate the Coldham's Brook here, and we're reducing the ground level. We're creating a sort of berm area, which we're told from our ecological advice is good for water voles, allows them to move. Others will no doubt tell whether that's right or wrong. And this is the area where we're winning our flood compensation here. So there's a bit of a topsoil strip, and we're taking some of the material out here to build the embankments, and then we relay the grass at a lower level at that point. Again, further south, so we're up here, that's the bridges up here, that's the railway embankment. Our path comes in at this point, meets the Newmarket, the Mildenhall railway line. This area here is an area of scrub, which were former sidings, which has now grown up. And this will be managed for wildlife as part of the scheme. It'll be planted up with native tree species and some of the hawthorn scrub removed to create grassland to compensate for some of the grassland that we lose elsewhere. We're told by our ecological friends that actually is what they would like to see, and they'll have an input into the planting and how that's all going to work. Here, like I say, we actually create quite a lot of spoil in dropping the level of the meadow here. Some of this spoil will be relocated here by moving soil around to keep it on site, so we avoid having to ship large quantities of material around in lorries, essentially. Keep the soil on site where it belongs. That's the thinking. So this area, I say, managed with wildlife, some remodelling of the ground to raise the level when we're out of the flood zone. We cross over the railway line here and into what's the Leopard Chapel meadows, if you like. The Leopard Chapel is down here somewhere. Our path follows the existing field boundary and line of trees adjacent to Coldham's Brook here. At that point, we're not actually going through the trees, we're on the meadow side. If we just have a look at some sections here, the Beadle industrial area is this place here, I don't know if you both know it, and that shows you where you are. This is the existing railway embankment, and this is where our path goes. Again, we're dropping the level here to create more flood zone here, more floodplain, and that material will accommodate on higher ground. Further south, where are we? Sorry. Yeah, okay, a little bit further on, at this point here, this is the site of the former oil depot. There's an oil delivery point there. We're not going to disturb the railway line there because there may be contamination there. So at that point we leave the railway embankment undisturbed. That's what it looks like at the moment. Well, actually, whenever I didn't take that photograph.
Has the railway been dismantled?
No, it's actually it is in fact allegedly a working railway line. No, it is. It's designated as a railway, and although the track is cut and you'll derail your train if you want to take it up there, it is still railway. So actually, we're trespassing if you go on what's ostensibly a live railway.
As far as the oil depot only, then?
That's right. That's what it looks like now. Further south towards the Leopard Chapel, this is where the belt of trees is much wider, and our path will thread its way through the trees with a no-dig method where appropriate. As I mentioned earlier, we've done a tree survey to show which trees will be affected, which trees are in poor condition. There will be some felling of trees involved, but there will be some replanting, some very extensive replanting of trees in other locations. Okay. Okay. That's the left chapel here. This is Newmarket Road. This is the site of our underpass. So it's 22 metres long, 5 metres wide. It's got decent headroom. What we propose to do is use this area here as our site compound, and I've got another picture of that, to construct the thing, which we've had early contractor involvement, asked people how you do this thing with a minimum disturbance to Newmarket Road. And the feeling is that the way to do it is actually to close the road for possibly a weekend, cut a great big slot here and slide in your underpass using, I'll show you in a minute, using one of them. Okay, so it's carrying concrete blocks there, not an underpass. Essentially it's a self-propelled multi-wheel thing. If anyone saw the Milton cycle bridge put in, that's how they wheeled that thing in, these things, rather than with a crane. So you cut a big hole, you slide in the underpass, and then you can cover the hole up and hope for the best. Okay, so that's where it is. That's the Leopard Chapel. This area has a lot of archaeological interest. This is a Grade 1 listed site, so we have to be very, very careful what we're doing. There. So we've had a look, this is the sort of time team bit, where we've done the resistivity work to find out what we think might be underneath there. That's the data you get back. These features like that, there's the Leopard Chapel there. The interpretation is that's a former wall that enclosed the Leopard Chapel area here. And there are various other bits and bobs which we're told could be features. I think that's a foundation for a wall, I think, that was removed. And I think this thing here, which is back, is possibly a burial, is a chapel. So part of what we do will involve a watching brief for an archaeologist on site to mind that we're doing the right thing and preserving the archaeology. We think that it's pretty much either too deep or has been trashed by work that went on to build the Newmarket Road embankment years ago. So we're not that bothered about the risk of an archaeological problem, but we'll have to see what
What's
will
the
turn
yellow bits?
up.
I can't quite read the key, I'm afraid.
Sorry, which one?
The yellow bits?
Do you know, I can't read that either. It says something about infill. I think it's been disturbed in that area. So it's a wet area it's also been disturbed. But these dark features, I'm told, are former buildings or artefacts of some sort. That's the same area showing our proposals on it. Here's our underpass here, Leopard Chapel there. We're going to come up adjacent to Coldwood Brook, so we come through, we double back on ourselves a bit, tuck into the area next to Coldwood Brook. This area here, we're talking at the moment with past, present and future as to what they might like in terms of how it will be managed in the future. I mean, the attraction for them is that they've got a Grade 1 listed site with no access, essentially. You can't get there by car, you can't get there really on foot very easy. You certainly can't get there as a disabled person. And so this will increase the footfall past their chapel and hopefully raise the profile of what is the oldest building in Cambridge, I believe.
Sorry,
oldest roof building. Sorry? I can't hear you. It's a parking. There is no parking here, but on the other side, and we'll have a look at that in a minute, I'll come to that in a second. This is the underpass itself. I've just chosen the dimensions. It manages to fit into where we want with an appropriate fall, so it's actually drained by gravity to the lake. So we don't need to use pump drainage to keep it dry. I'll show you that. This is what you were talking about. Here is the area adjacent to Colb's Common here, which is currently in private ownership. There's an area of parking in there already. What we propose to do is add 10 more spaces for the leper chapel here when we reinstate this area after. It's going to be our compound area for when we build the underpass. So we build it here, we slide it in. We're going to put that back to the hard standing it is at the moment, and there will be space for 10 vehicles for the leper chapel, in addition to the spaces that are there already for the fishermen who use that.
Where's the access point for that? So where's the access point?
Sorry?
Where's the access point?
For
that new car?
Here. It's not a new car park. It's an existing car park. And the current access is here, and that will remain the access point for that.
That's substandard. Sorry, but the access is substandard.
It is the access it is at the moment. So here, this point here, we have a new bridge which will cross the Coldham's Brook at that point. I'd say it's a bridge rather than a culvert. In an ideal world, from an engineering point of view, put in a culvert, but a bridge is required because it's more satisfactory for wildlife, apparently, to go underneath it. They don't enjoy culverts very much. Although, in fact, there is an existing culvert here. Okay. So we're into Coldham's Common here, and that's just to show you the path that we have at the moment, which is really quite narrow. The surface is not very good, and people frequently overrun the edge because they can't get past one another.
So I don't really move, but I don't see anyone do that.
Okay. Well, I'll take your word for it, but I've had to do it many, many times myself.
I'm commuting across it every day and see people on the grass regularly.
You can see it here.
Yeah. But on the north side, it's the same as the bridge, so it's 2.4 metres.
Sorry?
Is that 2.4 metres or 2.2?
It's not 2.4 metres. It's under 2 metres. Okay, so we go through Coldham's Common, widening the existing path to 3.5 metres. At this point here, there's an existing underpass which is really quite narrow and quite low that goes underneath the Ipswich railway line. We have no proposals to widen that because it would be a very, very expensive operation, and it's outside the scope of this project. However, what we do propose to do is in a similar way to what we had with the jetty. The idea is we realign the sight lines as we approach. So we give up some tarmac, take some tarmac to realign so you can see through the barrel of the thing on approach, so you don't interact with somebody coming the other way. There are no plans to do anything with the lighting here. It's already lit. We would like to light the underpass itself, although there is in fact a lamp column very close by, and it may be that we could, by suitable adaptation, improve the lighting spill at that point. And this is where our phase 1 terminates, where we meet Coldham's Lane. There's an existing crossing here which is very, very clunky and difficult to use. We're not happy with that. You know, we want to improve things and put a crossing in that people feel is more in keeping with what we're trying to achieve. And we think we can do that by improving the junction at this point. But that's not, at this moment, we're not entirely sure what we want to do with that, but our signals team tell us that we can. And we don't actually require planning permission for working the highways at the junction, so that's why it doesn't feature in the planning consent. But we are actively looking at that crossing to improve that as part of the overall scheme. And that's the end of phase 1 and the Chisholm Bridge.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. Now, we promised the opportunity of asking questions. We've had one or two as we went along. Colin.
You don't do substantial works to Newmarket Road. Aren't there a lot of services in that?
Yes.
And you're going to try and put a subway right in the middle of it?
They're not we don't, like I say, we've done a lot of work to see what's there, but that's never a guarantee that you've discovered everything that is there. And I suspect there are some surprises along the way, but we've done the research to find out what we think is there. We've also done some ground penetrating radar surveys, which should
Well, I would expect all the main services to at least Cromwell area of the city to go.
No, they don't because of the railway line. That's the thing. So they don't go underneath the railway. So
Exactly,
things like a sewer, you're probably at the end of the sewer, and so by rerouting you can deal with those risks. And that's where we're going now. Most of the service can be suspended when you drive through the underpass. Because they're at a level, they're actually quite shallow.
But the sewers are the big ones, aren't they?
Yeah, the sewers are the ones.
Fine, thanks.
Okay. I'm probably sort of saying something that's already been established and already done. But I just wanted to know, obviously, this is a scheme that, Jim and everybody else wanted to look as beautiful as possible and to reflect the style and character of Cambridge in terms of, the kind of semi-romantic rural nature. So, in terms of kind of expertise on that, is it who's advising on how you do that? Is that you got anybody?
In terms of, I'm not quite sure. In terms
landscape.
of there's a landscape report.
Like design criteria, sort of like in terms of how. I mean, like Ditton Meadows. Think about all the special green spaces in Cambridge. We're looking at the moment, for example, Trump Cycleway, all these schemes. Like, how do you keep what people really love about Cambridge? That's a rural, romantic sort of style that feels, with cows and meadows, and people take photos of this place. How is that being built into this scheme? I'm just wondering in terms of the landscaping. I'm probably, probably really,
Well, I think everything we do, we try to be as sympathetic as we can.
But this is actually
City Council
this sort of thing is actually it's not. It's something that it's a technical thing. It's professional expertise as well.
It's worth
how you achieve that.
It's worth mentioning the architects.
Yeah,
the bridge itself.
That's what.
So the architects of the bridge itself.
But the bridge, that's different.
It's part of it. I'm just saying it's not a full answer to the question, but it's an example that they only do bridges.
Because
and they do all sorts of bridges. If you go onto their website, I can't remember the name. I think it's Nights. Yeah. You go onto there, they've got thousands, hundreds of bridges. And
I'm not just talking about bridge. I'm talking about sort of.
No, but I'm just I'm saying that.
Say for example, similar scheme came up, and you're doing something. Someone was talking about improving, the cycle path along Grant's Meadows. Similar criteria would come up, in terms of how do you keep, we're talking about trying to make it beautiful.
It's partly what this forum's about.
Yeah, exactly. I was just looking for.
I think one thing is that there are. One of the areas is the Barnwell Wood area, for instance.
Yeah.
If you go there at the moment, it's effectively a tip. So, I think one of the things, I went in and explored that area when we had one of the riverside clearance things. And I think that there are areas like that which we should be able to enhance and add to the open space.
Yeah.
So that's certainly one of the things which we looked at. We also looked at the idea about we didn't want the route to be of an urban character.
No.
Sorry, can I?
Right.
But the reason what I'm saying is there
Wendy, I think I can answer
sorry.
because I was present when Mike Knight presented his information. Because one of the things that worried us over here has been the various ideas for the bridge running up to his involvement, which frankly frightened the socks off us. But what he actually has done is actually to look at the route as a whole.
That's what I was thinking.
And he came back with this proposal of the ramp access to the bridge beside the railway, as close as you can get to it, then across, and then the re-entrant turn on the other side. But the point about the embankment is to preserve the green aspect from walking across Ditton Meadows as far as you possibly can with something that big. So he certainly did have an appreciation. He convinced me and others that he actually had paid attention to that. One other thing, though, that does worry me a bit about this is you're saying that for most of its length, the cycle path is going to be at 4.6 over dated. And then suddenly there's a section that's 3 metres over datum. So what happens when it rains?
So I didn't catch this. It's 4.6.
4.6 over datum, but then you've got a section, which is illustrated on one slide, that's 3 metres over datum.
Where's that then? Oh dear. It's all at 4.6.
No.
It's a 3 metre width.
There was one section
I
of...
think that's the
4.6 there. That's the height.
Yeah, that's the one, but there was one little section.
4.6 there. That's
3B, I think he's looking for. Next slide. Or next one, sorry. There.
4.6.
But there's no datum. There's no height datum.
That's higher. That's much higher. The second, the lower of the two is at the existing height of the railway embankment, which is much probably.
The width is the height.
It's probably a metre high.
Right, so it is still 4.6.
Yeah, it's higher than 4.6. 4.6 is the lowest.
Right, that's okay, because that's what I'm saying, because I
Once you get into the meadows, you're above 5 metres all the way through.
Yeah, no, it just surprised me.
Fine, thanks. I've got 2 more questions here. Is the lady behind in the blue?
Yeah, I want to say that I think the architect said that he didn't really have a specialty in setting landscapes. He said that he does in the bridge, but he isn't a landscape architect. So he made it more synthetic, but the bridge itself, to me, is wholly a sort of a beautiful net. It's a big 75-ton concrete structure getting stuck in the middle of a beautiful net. And I think, I know Carolyn Bowler from PPF said that she thought a landscape professional, person who was specialized in landscape and long views should be employed to look at it. And that I don't think was ever done. The architect, he said, build bridges, and I just built bridges. And that's what's happened. He's built a bridge, you could stick in the middle of Canary Wharf, and we're sticking it in Meadow, which is a county nature reserve.
Well,
it's
thanks for that.
sympathetic.
Gentleman here.
So my name is Ivan Gerson. I'm a resident of Wall Road.
Sorry, what was your name?
Ivan Gerson. I'm from Denmark. We cycle a lot. I'm not a member of the Cambridge Cycling Campaign. So I used the piece of infrastructure that we talked about just now twice a day, and they include and out. That was my bicycle. I'm also a driver. I've got 2 children. We need to get in and out very often. This particular piece of infrastructure is essential to us for avoiding stretches of really dangerous road. I'm talking about the top end of Fen Road. I know about the improvements that we're making to the bottom of the Fen Road, but the entire stretch is very dangerous as a cyclist.
Yeah.
Or even if we want to get to the other end of the river, we have to circumnavigate very inaccessible stretches of pavement and infrastructure with big double body with the twins. This will also be a problem to other people that need accessible infrastructure, but it's providing a direct access from this part of town, from East Chesterton, across to places like Liaison, and further in the town will be absolutely essential to people like me and other people that are becoming a new part of the community around there.
Yeah. Did you manage to put your thoughts into the consultation feedback?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
So both this forum and the other consultations that went out, I thought were well publicized. So I suppose an additional comment about the character of Cambridge. So disregarding something like the River Chapel, that's very special, parts of it and those, I really can only see us improving things by implementing this scheme along this particular stretch. I do not see a very special character going to be around the railway bridge. Part of the thing that I'm hoping going to take away is this concrete pillar, which is right next to the railway bridge at the moment, and there isn't a lot of natural beauty on this particular.
Sorry, Wayne.
Just looking at things.
Come through the chair.
Sorry.
Fine.
I'm not disputing that.
I have a specific question.
Yeah.
Have you looked at the effects of passing trains on cyclists and commuters?
Patrick, I think that did come up in some of the discussion.
There was, when we were looking at, are you talking about the on the bridge itself?
For a start, yes.
I think when the 3 designs were developed for the consultation at night, there was one design that did have a shield, actually would have shielded it like this from the draft, presumably, in passing trains you're talking about. That proved to be an unpopular design and actually quite expensive and impractical to build. But the honest answer to your question is no, not really. Is it a problem? We're 10 metres away from the abutment of the bridge, so we're probably 15 metres away from the actual track of the train runs on. You know, I mean, if you think what happens when a train goes through a platform, an express train, I'm not convinced that it is a huge problem. But
I think the drawings are the same.
The line speed is not that high,
Right, sorry, this lady here has a question.
I just wanted to ask, you mentioned moving the street. Could you tell us a little bit more about what that would entail and what has been done to look at the existing wildlife around the existing park?
There's been extensive surveys on the existing wildlife and what's there, and we know very well what's there. It's been surveyed by ecologists, and the report has been submitted on the planning application for that. The piece adjacent to the river it is being relocated. You'll remove the switching the side the car is on. It swaps from one side to the other. So we are moving the brook from half from one side to the other of the brook. So the brook actually moves. We're building our ramps on where the brook is now, and then we're recutting a new brook line adjacent to the other side of the park. So we do have to create a new piece of watercourse. The final 70 metres, I think it is, of the
main part of the brook is actually on the other side of the railway.
The main flow.
The main flow, because it actually goes underneath the culvert underneath the railway line at the edge of the footbridges, and then comes down the other side of the railway line and in just underneath the extension of the jetty. That section has little flowing at the moment. It's not the section with the main flow.
We're causing zero flow, except in the extreme event. So we're actually relocating that to the other side of the park.
I think actually it's almost an overflow, but if the culvert beneath the railway line can't take a flood flow.
It's actually badly silted and it hasn't been maintained.
Yeah, it hasn't been maintained.
No. Jumping in green.
As far as being close to the railway goes, as far as I can tell, it's a lot further from the railway than the DNA path on site of Cambridge. And I guess plenty of people got experience along there with commercial problem trains. That's what it is.
But, so it was Mr. Bond and then Wendy again and Colin and that. And then should we finish off the questions at that point and after the lady? So there's 4 more.
Yeah, no.
Oh, sorry, I thought you had a question. It was Wendy.
So you're cutting a new stream. This is not. I'm just trying to sort of make sure we get as attractive as possible. So my background is landscape. I'm research and landscape community. So I'm just thinking, is it not an opportunity just to have a bit of? There's so many, architectural landscape expertise in Cambridge. Is there not a chance to get, say, some little bit of input, just to ensure, because if you're cutting a new stream, there's a chance here to have a fabulous scheme, to make it really attractive. And that's what I'm saying. Is that it would be nice.
I think it will be a fabulous scheme.
But you need that kind of doing that, is also. That's not just something, it's a type of expertise. I'm thinking about other schemes and things.
Are you talking about aesthetics or are you
I'm
talking about wildlife?
I'm talking about aesthetics, but aesthetics also encompasses all the other things too. But I'm just thinking, how do you achieve that? What are your your mission statement, your criteria, etc., and who you getting to help you do that. It is worth it, you know. I mean, you want someone, you know, go away afterwards and say, point to that and say, look, you know, that's modelled for the kind of cycling infrastructure that we want to have. This is something that was fabulous, you know. Cambridge is cycling city of, you know, Britain, etc. And look what they've done great things. We want that as well, you know.
So, yeah, thanks. I think,
well,
should we answer the questions?
Well, I'd make a suggestion to maybe help that we can propose to the planning committee that they look at a condition which looks at, you know, the specific design criteria for the landscaping. And, you know, that's in the power of the planning process to look at that and condition that and have a specific piece of work or a design guide that sets the criteria.
Design guide, yeah,
you know.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
And that's what we are the conduit.
Putting recommendations on something like that would be about, does that apply to other schemes too?
So, I mean, that's what I would suggest. And this forum can collectively make that recommendation. It's up to the planning process what it takes on board.
Should we hold that until we go on to the resolutions?
Yep.
Lady in the black and white stripes or squares.
Just ask Patrick, the exit from Colton's Common, you're saying you're looking at the lights and the actual junction, yeah? So that's phase one, yeah?
Well, it's not lump. It will follow on immediately afterwards. Phase one and phase two will blur into one another.
So what I'm asking is that junction there, because you were talking about taking a chunk off the side of Colton's Common in order to reroute down Brampton Road.
No, we're not.
You were talking about.
We had.
You were.
No. In the past, that's what we were looking at doing.
Well, very recent past actually. So you're.
We had a discussion on the site, I think.
Yeah, we did, but you haven't moved to that point. So what I'm saying is, you have then decided to have a go at the junction and route the traffic across there where there is already a dedicated cyclist crossing.
The proposal is to make junction improvements to Cromwell Road and also run a path to Brampton Road in the highway, not in the common, and put a new crossing in Coldham's Lane near Brampton Road.
Still
That's the plan, yeah.
And take a chunk off the common?
No.
Not? Right. Okay, just checking.
So the route's
Sorry?
So the route's going down Brampton Road. There's going to be a second route down Brampton Road.
Well, there already is. It's a road.
So I don't, sorry, I'm being offensive, but I just asked you a simple question. Because actually we know for full fact, if you put a route down Brampton Road, you're going to have to take out a car park and space of trees. So I'm just asking, so I don't feel that false information.
There are no plans to remove car parking spaces or trees. The plans are not fully developed, but as it stands, Brampton Road remains a road. Now, there are opportunities for people in Brampton Road to improve Brampton Road, and that's, you know, that this project does throw open all kinds of possibilities for people to get improvements made if they want them. At the moment, Brampton Road is a road. It's a very quiet road. It's a cycling route de facto because it's a road. Beyond that, there are no plans for Brampton Road.
You lost it.
It'll be used as a road.
Good plan. Okay, got one more question here, lady here.
I found it very useful this evening to have some flesh put on the plans and to hear generally how the scheme is going forward. I was pleased to hear about the underpass on Coldham's Common, because that has always worried me as a cyclist. And I no longer cycle, but when I did cycle, because the sight lines are so difficult, so I'm glad that that's going to be improved. I shall look forward to seeing the planning application with all its documents, particularly the design and access statement and everything about the landscaping, and to have the opportunity then, if I wish, and other people to do so, to put in detailed comments at that point on the specifics application. And I think it's almost on the website now, isn't it?
Has it been submitted?
The bridge has been submitted, the phase one of Chisholm Trail not yet, but imminently.
So Colin and then Evan over there.
Some specific queries about railway embankments. The diagram 3B shows the track in situ with the cycle track, which doesn't...
2B?
3B, the next one.
Okay.
Or the next one, sorry, whenever it was there.
That one?
That appears to show the track in situ on the oil side.
Yeah, it's not going to... No, it's just...
Okay.
That's illustrative. It shows you
But
where it is.
you are going to the
Yeah,
natural
the
railway.
track
is
goes.
what you're saying.
Yeah, that goes.
The other query is that we're running along the difference between the genome path and the proposed path alongside the railway approaching the bridge at Chesterton, is that is a railway embankment. One of the general national problems with railway embankments is that how they were constructed 150 years ago is extremely poorly documented, and there have been a serious number of failures only in the last winter. The two major routes in the country are still closed and will be into next year. Have you got assurances from Network Rail that they know about the state of that embankment and it will not affect the scheme? They will not require to do remedial work.
You cannot breathe anywhere near any railway infrastructure without having very significant interaction with Network Rail. With permission, we have gone through that process. Our embankment, our ramp, does not impinge on their embankment, and that was one of the things.
It was moving the brook that started worrying me, that's all.
No, our embankment, our ramp does not impinge on their embankment, and they were very specific about not wanting that. We did actually consider trying to lean them against their embankment, to actually shore up their embankment, which he could have done, but they didn't want to know about that. So,
no problem then.
Fine, thanks. Evan.
It's also a general question, I suppose, but it's it seems like it's a very complicated project to deliver. Other complicated projects seem to have had a hard time staying on budget and on time. How confident are you that you can stick to the schedule?
We have to stick to the schedule, actually, because of the funding, or part of the funding, certainly for the bridge. And as it stands, we're very confident that we can remain within budget, because we've had this thing about early contractor involvement. We asked them, how are you going to build this thing, and how much it would cost. And they've got nothing at stake other than to give us advice, and we'll be actually paying for the advice. So it's not like they're going to get the job. So we've got a very good indication of what things cost, and we're confident that it will be within budget. Things go wrong, don't get me wrong, it's not like we're immune from this and something you can't discover a Viking longship or something. But as things stand, we're very confident we can stay within budget and on schedule.
I'm on that optimistic note. Did you have one final question before we go on to the resolutions?
No, I wanted to suggest a resolution. So.
So I was just going to ask you about compensatory land for loss of economy. Sorry? What would compensatory land be for loss of economy?
As I understand, there is no requirement to provide compensatory land for the consent that we're after. However, we are looking at getting some compensatory land, and we're in negotiation with others about that at the moment. So, don't want to say any more about that particularly.
It's just Ashford, that's me. So,
okay.
Ashford is
We'll be making an application for commons consent, and at that time we can address that. But we are looking at a neutral effect on the common in terms of land take.
I understand that I think it's 200 square metres requires compensatory land to be provided before secondary state commission will grant it.
That, no doubt, will be flushed out in the process of commons consent.
Well, it's part of that language.
No, we can easily pass that question by monitoring officer to get character. I'll take an action to do that.
Fine, well thanks for all those questions. Any others? No. I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Now the resolutions aspect of the forums, this is an opportunity to actually put forward proposals that can be discussed here by the panel with your involvement as well. And if we have an item to discuss, we can get to a vote on it if necessary, and then if the vote is that the resolution is to be taken forward, it will go forward to the project leader for further discussion and investigation. So, we've already had mention from the floor about the suggestion to have design guidelines. And it sounds as though it's been similar to what came up in the discussions with the city deal. Remember, there was a design guidelines produced there, which the initial guidelines been sent back to be revised, I believe. I know. But I think what you're talking about here is possibly something smaller scale, more specific. Is that what?
I'm wanting expert landscape input. I want actually landscape architect to be involved, have some expert input. I think to make this a really attractive scheme, that requires professional expertise.
Right. Okay.
It's not. No due respect, it's not engineer, transport, whether it is actual special design expertise, and I'm sure it'll give value to the scheme, in terms of it'll be a huge benefit.
Yeah. Okay. I mean that's seems straightforward.
We're not talking about landscaping like plants. We're talking about the design element of it. So, I mean, for the whole trail or for the bridge? Or for
I like the whole trail.
Well, I mean,
you can't see it as one little bit. You need to look at it as a whole, how it all has.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I recall correctly, in the presentation, Patrick did go through certain elements of certain trees being investigated and so on and so forth, and then a certain amount of replanting and so on. So it hasn't been neglected.
So if I could make a suggestion, Chair, I think, as has been mentioned earlier, there'll be a design and access statement. So we could make a specific request of the planning committee to look at that in light of the need for design guide or landscaping expertise, which could be delegated. So there could even be that you can have a situation where conditions can be delegated to members and officers to actually discharge, and that could and they could set the conditions of that. So we could make a recommendation that they look at the specific conditions required to make the landscaping fit for purpose.
Yeah, I mean, there's something that the local local plan has, about criteria, like Cambridge's open spaces and the style and character of Cambridge. So it's ensuring how do you
absolutely, and as has been said, that in theory that should be evident in the design and access statement, because that's what the design and access statement is about. It's about making sure that a scheme is high quality and is in context of its surroundings and gives appropriate access. But there can be a resolution from this group that the committee gives due attention to that.
Mr. Bond.
I think it's important to remember that this particular section, Wendy, is going to be subject to planning consent in a way that highways works generally are not subject to planning consent, and anything goes. And therefore, there will be, as Shirley said, the need for a design and access statement, which gives you then what the main approach is. And if there are things in that and in the proposal that you feel that are not as good as they could be, it's the planning committee you need to be backing because they are the only people who can impose the condition.
Planning committee. I just want us all speaking on the same hymn sheet.
Same
hymn sheets, that's all, please.
Which planning committee will actually consider this? The joint fringes?
Joint development.
I just want to echo that I fully endorse that idea that expertise in this area is not just somebody going to Scottsdale. It is. It's really having a professional eye. I'm saying this as a Hills Road resident. I
I'm looking at the cedar ashtrays that we've been given. I'm hearing that despite all the evidence to the contrary, they're going to be replanted with cedar, but I'm reassured that apparently if that doesn't work this time, they'll be concreted over. Now that, to my mind, is not design.
Yeah,
That's not the way to do it.
fine. Well, I think we've got it. Is everyone in agreement with what's being proposed there?
Yes, but we're talking about stuff that requires planning. There's certain elements around where Fed Nitton, which I assume doesn't need planning. And what's been happening there is that the parish council has been talking with the officers about the layout and where replanting trees. So that sort of there's almost two sections here.
Yes.
The planning side and the stuff on the road that doesn't need planning.
See, I think,
and I assume that might be the case up in Milton where.
I think there should be review for actually the whole thing is not, like the road, it's not just little bits.
Yes.
The whole, you just could have someone who has, an eye on the whole, it's like looking at, we've all been having these discussions about Milton Road or Trumpeton or whatever. These are, you look at the whole, I mean, that's what all the good landscapers do. I mean, they don't look a little bit.
Yeah, I think we've got a kind of consensus around here. Yeah. We want the landscape to be looked at, and design elements to be present. But,
I would say that we're starting off from quite a different level in a way, in that actually the diagrams which Patrick has been showing do so quite a lot of the sorts of landscaping, as compared with some of the diagrams which others have produced for Milton Road, for instance. So I think that we're starting off from a better base.
Okay, I'm just saying have a vision, that's all.
Yeah. Okay, so
I've had a vision for 20 years.
We've agreed on that. Shall we take that forward then? Yes. Patrick, I'm just conscious of the time. We need to be leaving this hall at 8. I mean, there was funny enough. There was one. Oh, sorry.
If I suggest a resolution, you could suggest properly advertising the planning element of the consultation. For example, simply putting a link to it from the project web pages on the project web page on the bridge. You could also put some posters up with some pictures that we've seen here tonight. You could put those up on site and do a really nice site notice to advertise the planning consultation, and it should be on the City Deal website and the County Council website. Currently it's incredibly deep and difficult to find on the County Council website. I think many people haven't even looked to the County Council website for a planning application because it's been published on a 4-week-old list earlier today, which is just bizarre. But presumably that's in relation to when it was actually received or something odd. But it's incredibly difficult to find.
Right, is that possible then? Yeah, thanks for that. It's a very good suggestion. Interesting enough, I had one item that I don't have discussed. It's the sort of item that can go on for a very long time, so I'll just be very brief and kind of introduce, think of a way forward with it. Now that is, we've been referring to the trail as the Chisholm Trail throughout the whole development. Jim, as a person who had the vision a long time ago in the 1990s about the trail. Now we've got the bridge that is going to be constructed, and I was pondering on the idea of a name for the bridge, separate to the name of the trail. And when I discussed this with different people, sounding them out, some feedback was that it would be quite good maybe to go through the Cambridge News and ask people to send in their suggestions and so on, and have
Bridging the bridge back.
Yes, let's do it. But it could involve, local schools and so on. It also will raise the profile of this, what is fundamentally a massively important project for the city of Cambridge. I mean, I myself would like to kick off with a possible name.
To the Cabinet Bridge?
No, not at all. I was going to propose that to have the Alan Turing Bridge. Now, two reasons for that is, one is you know, I don't think there are any monuments to Alan Turing in Cambridge itself at the moment. But another reason, and it's a historical reason, he used to actually do his marathon running training along the River Cam, up to Ely and back. And up until recent times, there was a relay race, you know, the Turing relay race that took place. And it was open to the public. And I just thought, well, it would be a kind of permanent, these were the T-shirts that were given out to people who ran this relay race. So it is based in fact that Alan Turing did go running along this part of the river. And I thought naming a bridge like this, which is going to be a great contribution to the lives of people in England, would be recognising him. So that's, I would just like to kick that off as an idea. We don't have to debate it tonight at all, but what do you think is an idea of opening up to the public to look at, having a name discussed in public about
Yes, I think discussing it in public is a very good idea, but I do think that against the background of discontent about the number of things that are named after men, that's an unfortunate suggestion.
Well, I mean, that's one point of view, isn't it?
Yes.
I think it's probably worth also noting that Turing was a diverse figure. Yes. Put it that way, it wasn't
yeah, no, that's a very good point, but the other thing is his contribution to general humanity.
I think while welcoming your suggestion, Chairman, I would like to put in a plea not to name any more bridges after people who are still alive. It's totally invidious and inappropriate. You didn't suggest it here, but there are two both sides about facilities which are named after people who are still alive and shouldn't be.
Sorry, Colin.
Could I propose a resolution that we actually publicise all the cycle routes that are already there, because about 90% of the Chisholm Trail is already there as a cycle route, and most people don't know about it in Cambridge. The number of people who ask me, you would not believe.
A lot of the cycling infrastructure is substandard.
Not necessarily, they work all right, they work. Yeah.
I mean, I have seen maps produced by the
But they don't often appear, and the number of people that say to me, where is there a cycle trail? I say, well, it's there. Where? They don't, and they honestly don't know where they are.